My husband made 50k yuan a month. I made 3k. After we married, he forced me to sign a 50-50 agreement, and I gave in. Then my mom suddenly had a brain hemorrhage and needed 100k yuan for emergency surgery. I didn't have enough, so I got on my knees and begged him. He shoved me away coldly. We signed a 50-50 agreement. Your mom is your family's problem. We can't break the rules. The delay in raising the money cost us everything. My mom died on the operating table, and I died with nothing but regret. When I opened my eyes, I was back on the day Zheng Hao first demanded we split everything 50-50. One look at his calculating face, and I signed without hesitation. Then I added one clause: sickness, injury, life, or death. Neither side owes the other help. Whoever breaks the deal walks away with nothing. Zhuoru, think carefully. If you don't sign this, there's no point staying married. Zheng Hao sat on the couch, gripping a cheap pen, looking thoroughly annoyed. On the coffee table lay that familiar 50-50 marriage agreement. I glanced at the digital clock on the wall. June 15th, 2020. I was back, 3 months before my mom's emergency. Back on the very day Zheng Hao forced me into this 50-50 deal. In my last life, I cried and begged him, saying marriage was a partnership and counting every penny would ruin us. And what did he say? He said, even brothers settle their accounts. I make 50k yuan a month, you make 3k. If I don't save money, how are we supposed to handle emergencies? Stop trying to live off me. Then my mom had a brain hemorrhage. I didn't have enough in my account, so I knelt and begged him, not for a gift, just to front me 50k yuan to save her life. He just watched and said it was my family problem and we couldn't break the 50-50 rules. Even after my mom's funeral, he handed me the receipt for the funeral wreath in front of all our relatives and told me to pay him back. That kind of heartbreak and rage burned so deep that even after getting another life, I could still feel it in my bones. Sheru, did you lose your voice? Zheng Hao saw me staying silent and assumed I was about to make a scene. His frown deepened. I'm telling you, staying quiet won't make this go away. My mom says women these days are too calculating, so I have to protect my money. If you won't sign, we'll go file for divorce tomorrow. He was certain I couldn't leave him. I had no family in this city, my pay was low and I used to be a pushover. But I wasn't that fool anymore. I picked up the agreement and skimmed it. Mortgage 50-50, utilities 50-50, groceries 50-50, even future childbirth expenses 50-50. He had calculated every last cent. I looked up at Zheng Hao's smug, calculating face and suddenly smiled. I'll sign. Of course I'll sign. Zheng Hao froze. He clearly hadn't expected me to agree so fast. You finally came to your senses? Absolutely. I picked up the pen and stopped at the last line. But if we're separating everything, let's do it properly. What do you mean? Zheng Hao looked at me warily. If we're doing 50-50, we go all the way. I wrote another line in the blank space. During the marriage, if either spouse faces a serious illness, major accident, or life or death emergency, the other has no financial duty to help. Each handles their own fate. I pushed the agreement toward him. Zheng Hao glanced at it and scoffed. Sueru, have you lost your mind? Why add such a morbid clause? I looked him straight in the eye. Aren't you afraid I'll take advantage of you? What if I get a terminal illness that costs hundreds of thousands? With this clause, you won't have to pay a cent. Isn't that exactly what you want? Zheng Hao thought for a second. Fine. Yaro, I didn't know you were this self-aware. He gave me a mocking smile and signed his name. Then he made 2 copies, tossed one to me and locked the other in his safe like treasure. From today on, we follow the rules. I bought tonight's groceries for 35.8 yuan, send me 17.9. Zheng Hao pulled out his phone and shoved his payment code in my face. It was the exact same look he wore when he charged me for the funeral wreath in my last life. I said nothing and transferred the money. Got it. Satisfied, Zheng Hao pocketed his phone and hummed his way into the bedroom. Watching his smug back, I touched the newly signed agreement in my pocket. Zheng Hao, I hope you're still smiling when the day comes that you're on your knees begging me. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Zheng Hao. By the way, my parents are coming to stay for a while tomorrow. Remember to buy some decent food. Don't embarrass me. And you're paying. This is your chance to show some respect to my parents. I stared at the screen and let out a cold laugh. Show some respect? In my last life, I thought sincerity would earn sincerity. Instead, his whole family drained me dry and walked all over me. This time, if we're doing 50-50, we're keeping receipts. I replied with 2 words. Got it. Then I put down my phone and walked into the kitchen. I opened the fridge. It was stuffed with Zheng Hao's favorite beef and seafood. I grabbed a U-lock and right in front of him locked the fridge shut. Click. Zheng Hao heard it, rushed out and stared at me. What are you doing? I jingled the key in my hand and looked at him without expression. Since we're 50-50, this fridge is mine from before the marriage, and I pay the electric bill. If you want to use it, pay rent. Zheng Hao stared at me like I was an alien. Sharu, are you crazy? I pocketed the key and pointed at the wall clock. It's 9 p.m. I'm going to bed. I paid half the down payment on this apartment, so the master bedroom is mine. You can take the spare room. Also, I bought the mattress in there. Tonight you can sleep on the floor or send me 200 yuan for wear and tear. Zheng Hao's face went dark with rage. He pointed at me, his hand literally shaking. Fine. Xueru, you really want to play this game? Don't regret it. Watching him lose it, I finally felt some of the pressure I'd carried for years start to lift. Regret? The biggest regret of my life was being too good to you the first time around. I slammed the bedroom door and locked it. Outside, Zheng Hao started kicking the door and yelling, "You're insane! Let's see how long you can keep this act up. My parents are coming tomorrow. You'll be sorry." I leaned against the door, listening as my expression slowly turned cold. You want your parents to come here and live like royalty? Dream on. The next morning, pounding on the door woke me up. Open up! Do you know what time it is? My parents are already downstairs. Zheng Hao was yelling loud enough to wake the building. I calmly got dressed, did my makeup, and only then opened the door. Zheng Hao stood there scowling. Beside him were his stocky mother, his hunched-over father, and two huge woven bags reeking of fermented pickles. They dumped both bags straight onto the new wool rug I just bought. The second Wang Kuihua saw me, the passive-aggressive comments started. "Oh wow, look what time it is and our daughter-in-law is just waking up. Xiao Hao told me you were lazy, but I didn't believe him. It's practically noon." "What kind of wife sleeps this late?" Zheng Hao chimed in. "Mom, leave her alone. She's always been spoiled." Then he turned to order me around. "What are you standing there for? Go buy groceries and cook. My parents were on the train all night. They're starving. Get a fish. Dad likes it braised." In my last life, this scene happened over and over. To please them, I'd smile, rush to the market, buy the most expensive ingredients, cook a huge meal, and end up exhausted, only to hear complaints about everything. But today I didn't move an inch. "What are you waiting for? Are you deaf?" Zheng Hao shoved at me, but I stepped aside. I pulled a copy of our agreement from my bag and slapped it on the coffee table. "Zheng Hao, did you forget what you signed yesterday?" His face changed. He instinctively tried to cover the paper, but Wang Cuihua snatched it first. "What agreement?" Wang Cuihua couldn't read much, but she recognized the words 50-50. After reading it, she slapped her thigh in outrage. She pointed at me and yelled, "Xueru, did you force Xiao Hao to sign this? I knew you were scheming. You haven't even given our Zheng family a child, and you're already after the family money." Zheng Hao didn't explain a thing. He just shrugged helplessly. "Mom, what could I do?" Xueru insisted. She called it being an independent modern woman. I watched the mother-son routine and said coldly, "Mom, read it carefully." Zheng Hao proposed this agreement and he signed it first. I pointed at his signature. "Once you sign, you follow the rules." "I don't care who signed it!" Wang Kuihua crumpled the agreement and threw it on the floor. "I'm here now, so you serve me. I'm your mother-in-law and your elder." "Now go cook." She marched over to the fridge. Click. She tugged twice, but it wouldn't open. Only then did she notice the giant U-lock hanging from the handles. "What is this?" Wang Cuihua stared in disbelief. I said calmly, "I bought the fridge and I bought the food inside. Under our agreement, that makes it my private property. If you want to eat it, you can pay." "Pay?" Zheng Hao's father, Zheng Dagen, finally spoke. He tapped out his pipe, dropping ash straight onto my wool rug. "Daughter-in-law, we're family. Why talk like strangers? You want money just for a meal?" "Family?" I laughed. "Yesterday, when Zheng Hao charged me 17.9 yuan for groceries, he sure didn't call us family." I opened the calculator on my phone. "Since you want me to cook, let's do the math." My hourly rate is 50 yuan. Cooking takes about 2 hours, so that's 100. Ingredients: fish 50, meat 40, vegetables 20, seasonings 10, plus gas. Add water and wear on the dishes, and the total is 250 yuan. I held the screen up to Zheng Hao. "Send 250 first, payment before service, no tabs." The room went dead silent. Zheng Hao's face turned purple while Wang Kuihua shook with rage and couldn't get a word out. You're obsessed with money." Zheng Hao gritted his teeth. "Same to you," I smiled. "I learned from the best, didn't I? I have to manage risk, too." "I'm not eating. I'd rather starve than eat anything you cook." Wang Kuihua dropped to the floor and launched into a full-blown tantrum. "Xiao Hao, look at the wife you married. She's trying to drive your poor parents into the grave." "I can't live like this." Zheng Hao hurried over to help his mother up. Then he glared at me. "Xueru, don't push it. You are cooking today." "No." I grabbed my bag and started changing my shoes to leave. "If you won't pay, I'll go eat out. Oh, and one more thing." I pointed at the ash on the floor. "Cleaning fee, 50 yuan. Don't forget to transfer it. And I expect everything in this apartment to be exactly where I left it. If anything goes missing, I'm calling the police." "You wouldn't dare!" Zheng Hao shouted. "Try me." I slammed the door behind me and left the chaos inside. The sun outside was blinding, but I'd never felt lighter. And this was only the beginning. Zheng Hao, the real show hadn't even started. I took my time eating a bowl of beef noodles downstairs, then went to the mall and bought myself 2 sets of premium skincare I'd never been willing to splurge on before. Now that I wasn't supporting his bottomless pit family, spending my own money felt amazing. Around noon, Zheng Hao called. "Xueru, where the hell are you? Why aren't you back yet? Get home. My mom doesn't feel well." He sounded frantic. I laughed to myself. Playing sick was Wang Kuihua's favorite trick. In my last life, anytime I didn't do exactly what she wanted, she'd clutch her chest and complain about pain, trying to guilt me into giving in. If she's sick, call an ambulance. Why are you calling me? I'm not a doctor. Zhenghao choked on his words. We're out of rice. You couldn't even bring some home? You're the one eating it. Buy it yourself. The agreement says household supplies are 50-50. Fine, you're ruthless. He hung up. I looked at my phone and smirked. Already can't take it? By the time I got home, it was afternoon. The second I walked in, I smelled heavy cooking fumes. The kitchen looked like a war zone, dishes piled in the sink, vegetable scraps and grease all over the floor. Wang Kuihua sat on the couch picking her teeth. She rolled her eyes when she saw me. Oh, look who's back. We bought our own rice and groceries. No need to trouble your highness. Zhenghao sat nearby with a dark expression. Shuero, since you want everything split so clearly, housework is 50-50 too. My mom cooked today, so you wash the dishes. I looked at the mountain of dishes and the badly scorched pot. I'm not washing them. Why not? We cooked, you wash, that's fair. Zhenghao said it like it was obvious. Did I eat any of it? I asked. He went quiet. I didn't eat a bite of your food. Why would I wash your dishes? You make the mess, you clean it, pretty basic. I didn't even take off my shoes. I walked to the kitchen doorway and snapped a photo. You have 30 minutes to put this kitchen back the way it was. Otherwise, I'll hire a cleaner and deduct the cost from your share of the mortgage. You'd touch my mortgage payment? Zhenghao jumped up. Go ahead and test me. I turned, went back to the bedroom, and locked the door again. Outside, Wang Kuihua started yelling. What a curse! This marriage is impossible! Xiaohao, divorce her! Divorce her right now! Mom, enough. The mortgage is still under her name, too. Zhenghao sounded defeated. He didn't dare divorce me. Not yet. I'd paid half the down payment, and my housing fund was still helping cover the mortgage. With how stingy he was, there was no way he'd willingly give up a piece of property that valuable. I put on noise-canceling headphones, blocked them out, opened my laptop, and started checking the stock market. In my last life, Zhenghao controlled all our money. I handed him my earnings to invest, and he lost it in stocks, then secretly used some of it to buy his brother a car. This time I remembered what was coming. A few breakout stocks were about to take off, and I still had 50k yuan in savings. That was the money I'd originally planned to use for my mom's surgery in my last life. This time, it would be my starting capital. Zhenghao, I was going to make you watch me get richer and richer without being able to spend a single cent of it. That night, I came out for water. The kitchen had been cleaned. Not perfectly, but at least it was usable. Zhenghao and his parents were squeezed together in the living room watching TV. The second I came out, Wang Kuihua deliberately cranked the volume up. I bought that TV too, I said calmly. Zhenghao whipped around. Zheru, are you ever going to stop? You're charging us to watch TV now? Electricity is 50-50. TV depreciation is extra. I walked over to the breaker box. I flipped the switch for the living room outlets and the TV went black. What are you doing? Zhenghao shouted. I installed a smart meter in the living room. I pointed to the small device by the outlet. Scan to pay, 5 yen an hour. Want TV? Pay first. Zhenghao completely lost it. He lunged toward me, but Zheng Dagen grabbed him. Xiaohao, don't touch her. The second you do, you lose the argument. Zhenghao stood there breathing hard, eyes red. Fine, Shuiru, you win. Just wait. I ignored his threat, filled my glass, and went back to my room. The living room was dead silent that night, but I knew it was only the calm before the storm. Over the next few days, the atmosphere at home got downright weird. Zhenghao and his parents started giving me the silent treatment. They thought it would get to me. I couldn't have asked for anything better. I left early and came home late every day, trading stocks and watching my account grow from 50k to 80k, then to 120k yuan. Meanwhile, life on Zhenghao's side was clearly falling apart. Wang Chuihua and Zheng Dagen were used to rural life, and city living didn't make them any less chaotic. Back when I waited on them, they only had to enjoy themselves. Now that I stopped doing everything, all the pressure landed on Zhenghao. Wang Cuihua couldn't use the gas stove and nearly set the kitchen on fire. Zheng Dagen wouldn't flush the toilet, leaving the bathroom reeking. Every day after work, Zhenghao had to shop, cook, look after both parents, and put up with all my little fees. I watched it all with quiet satisfaction. On Friday night, I knew something was off the second I walked in. The living room was packed. Besides Zhenghao and his parents, there were 2 of his aunts and even his deadbeat younger brother, Zheng Gang. So this was an intervention now? Well, look who finally came home. One of the aunts spoke first, cracking sunflower seeds and spitting the shells all over the floor. Xueru, I hate to say it, but you're being ridiculous. Your in-laws come to stay and you refuse to take care of them. Then you pull this 50-50 nonsense with Xiao Hao. Aren't you embarrassed? Another aunt chimed in. Exactly. A wife should take care of her husband and family. If you're this difficult, who's going to stay with you? Zhengang lounged there with one leg crossed. Sis-in-law, my brother says you're rolling in money now. You even charge people to watch TV. Perfect timing, I'm a little short right now. Lend me 20k. I looked at the circus sitting in my living room and almost laughed. Are you all done? I changed my shoes. Then I walked straight to the water dispenser and poured myself a glass. Xueru, your elders are talking to you. What kind of attitude is that? Zheng Hao slammed the table. Elders? I took a sip. In my book, you earn that title by acting with some sense. As for all of you, I looked over those greedy faces. You're just a bunch of leeches. Who are you calling a leech? Zheng Gang shot to his feet and rolled up his sleeves. Zheng Gang, sit down. Zheng Hao stopped him, then turned back to me. His expression turned cold. Xueru, I called everyone here today to set some rules. You wanted 50-50? Fine, we accept that. But this is the Zheng family home. My parents have every right to stay here, and my brother is coming to the city for work, so he'll stay here too. He paused, then gave me a calculating smile. But the apartment is too small for everyone. Since you have so much money, why don't you rent somewhere else? My parents can take the master bedroom, and my brother gets the spare. Why should I asked. Because I'm the registered owner. Zheng Hao pulled out the property deed. My name is on this apartment. He was right. When we bought it, I'd paid half the down payment, but to show my trust, I'd let the deed be put in his name alone. It was the biggest mistake of my last life, and the source of all his confidence now. Xueru, you can stay if you want, but then you cover every household expense and give my brother 50k yuan for job connections. Otherwise, we divorce and you leave with nothing. So that's what this was. He was using divorce and the apartment to threaten me, trying to force me back into being their free maid and personal ATM. His aunts piled on. Xueru, Xiao Hao is only thinking about the family. A divorced woman is damaged goods. Who's going to want you? Apologize, hand over the money, and we can still be a family. Wang Kuihua looked downright smug. You heard them. This apartment belongs to my son. If you don't want to get kicked out, learn to behave. I looked at their ugly faces and calmly set down my glass. Zheng Hao, did you forget I kept all the bank records showing I paid half the down payment? So what, you gave me that money voluntarily. Zheng Hao spread his hands like he had me cornered. Legally, this apartment is mine. Is it? I pulled a document from my bag. Then take a look at this. Zheng Hao scanned it, and the color drained from his face. It was a notarized copy of our marital property agreement. I may have been naive in my last life, but before we bought the apartment, my mom made me get it notarized, clearly recording my share of the down payment. It also confirmed that the apartment was jointly owned. In my last life, I loved him too much to ever use it. This time, it was my trump card. When did you get this? Zheng Hao's hands were shaking. The day before we bought the apartment, I said coldly. Zheng Hao, I own 50% of this place. You want me out? Fine. Pay back my share of the down payment plus the appreciation over the years. 1.5 million yuan total. Transfer it now. I'll walk out immediately. 1.5 million? Wang Kuihua shrieked. Are you robbing us? Can't afford it. I took back the agreement. Then be quiet. I have the right to live here and nobody is throwing me out. I turned to Zheng Gang. And you? You want to stay here? Fine. Market rate for the spare room is 2,000 yuan a month. Utilities extra. No money, no room. You! Zheng Gang's face went bright red. And you too. I pointed at the ants. Cleaning the seed shells. 100 yuan. Tea, 50. Don't pay, and next time, you don't come through this door. This is outrageous, outrageous! Wang Kuihua slapped her thigh from the floor. No one can live like this! Zheng Hao stared at me with pure resentment. He'd never imagined the obedient, easygoing wife he knew had kept a card like this up her sleeve. You've got nerve, Xueru, Zheng Hao hissed. You want everything counted to the cent? Fine, we'll see how long you can keep this up. Everyone out, I pointed at the door. The relatives left grumbling. On the way out, they even swiped a few drinks I'd bought. Zheng Gang got thrown out too. Wang Kuihua stormed off to her room and lay down. Only Zheng Hao and I were left in the living room. Don't get too pleased with yourself, Xueru, Zheng Hao said darkly. Your mom isn't in great health, right? I heard she needs another checkup. Our agreement says no helping in life or death situations. If something happens to her, don't come begging me. My heart tightened. He was basically cursing my mom, but I didn't show it. I just stared back at him. Don't worry, my mom has me. But you, Zheng Hao, your dad's face looks dark and his eyelids are swollen. You might want to get him checked. Don't come begging me later because I'll be following our agreement. Zheng Hao froze, then burst out laughing. My dad's perfectly healthy. You're the one who'll end up on your knees begging me. What he didn't know was that I was telling the truth. In my last life, not long after my mom died, Zheng Dagen was diagnosed with end-stage kidney failure. Back then, Zheng Hao sold his car, tried to sell the apartment, and even pressured me to borrow from loan sharks to save his father. But this time I looked at Zheng Hao's arrogant face and silently counted down. His consequences were already on the way. Another half-month passed in Cold War and constant calculation. During that time, I drew a boundary around every inch of the apartment. My toiletries were locked in a cabinet, my snacks had labels, and I even carried my own toilet paper with me. Zheng Hao was nearly losing his mind. He started picking fights on purpose, even blasting the TV in the middle of the night. I didn't argue, I just flipped the breaker. He deliberately flooded the bathroom floor. So the next day, I had the bathroom door ripped out and replaced with clear glass. Only for the master bath, of course. I locked the shared one, and I was the only person with a key. He tried calling the cops. They showed up, called it a domestic dispute, said a few words, and left. When he tried to hit me, I reminded him I'd already installed a hidden camera. Touch me once and I'll make sure you walk away with nothing, and possibly a criminal case. That shut Jung Hao up. Guys like him only act tough when they think you won't fight back. But the resentment inside him kept building day by day. Then one day, the hospital called. They said something looked off on my mom's checkup and asked me to come in. I knew that in my past life, my mom had died from a brain hemorrhage, but I still couldn't take chances. I took leave and rushed to the hospital. Thankfully, the doctor said her blood pressure was just a little high, prescribed some medication, and told me to keep an eye on it. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The moment I stepped out, I ran into Jung Hao. He was supporting Jung Dagen and hurrying toward the ER. Jung Dagen looked waxy and pale, his whole body shaking. His pant legs were soaked and he reeked of urine. Wang Kuiwa trailed behind them, wailing at the top of her lungs. Jung Hao, what's wrong with your dad? Why did he suddenly pass out? The second Jung Hao saw me, his eyes lit up like he'd found a lifeline. Xueru, why are you here? You have a car! Quick, take my dad to a bigger hospital! This clinic can't handle it! I stayed right where I was and stared at him coldly. My car? Who's paying for gas, wear and tear, and the time I'm losing from work? Jung Hao panicked. Are you seriously calculating that now? This is life or death, hurry! Oh, so now you care about life or death. I smiled and there wasn't a trace of warmth in it. Jung Hao, did you forget our agreement? Sickness, injury, life or death? Neither side is responsible. Your dad collapsed. What does that have to do with me? Jung Hao was shaking with rage. That's my father, your father-in-law. How can you be this heartless? Heartless? I stepped closer and lowered my voice so only he could hear. In my past life? No, back when I begged you to help my mom, what did you say? Rules are rules. I'm just following the rules you made. Jung Hao opened his mouth to argue, but Jung Dagen suddenly started convulsing and foaming at the mouth. Dad! Jung Hao freaked out. He stopped arguing, hauled his father onto his back, ran outside and grabbed a cab. Watching them scramble away, I felt nothing. If anything, I almost laughed. Jung Hao, you're already falling apart? The real nightmare hasn't even started. I took my time going home and made myself a proper dinner. Steak, red wine, candlelight. A little celebration for karma arriving late. Jung Hao came home at 10 that night looking completely drained. He collapsed onto the couch, hair a mess, eyes streaked red. Wang Kuiwa didn't come back. I figured she was staying at the hospital. When he saw me drinking wine, Jung Hao snapped. He charged over and knocked the glass from my hand. It hit the floor with a sharp crack, red wine splashing everywhere. You can still sit here drinking? Do you even know what my dad has? He screamed like he was coming apart. I pulled out a tissue, dabbed the wine off my clothes, and answered calmly. What is it, a cold fever? End-stage kidney failure. Jung Hao shouted the words, his voice cracking with panic and despair. The doctor says he needs dialysis immediately, and we have to prepare for a kidney transplant. Without one, he won't make it. I already knew how this would end, but hearing it out loud still gave me a grim sense of satisfaction. Oh, that's unfortunate. My voice stayed flat. But what does that have to do with me? I'm not a doctor, and I'm definitely not a kidney donor. With a thud, Jung Hao dropped to his knees in front of me. Every ounce of pride and calculation disappeared with that one move. Xueru, I know I've been awful. I know I wronged you. But I really have no choice this time. Dialysis costs hundreds every session, a transplant costs a fortune, and all my money is tied up in stocks. I can't get it out. He clung to my pant leg, crying so hard he could barely breathe. Can you lend me some money? I'll write an IOU. Charge me whatever interest you want. Please, help me. Looking at Jung Hao kneeling there, I saw a flash of my past life, me on my knees begging him for help. Back then, he'd looked down at me the same way and said coldly, I don't have the money. Funny how karma comes full circle. I bent down and gently peeled his hand away. Then I pointed at the copy of our agreement on the coffee table. Jung Hao, it's not that I won't help. These are your rules. You said even family needs clear accounts, and married couples should protect themselves. If I lend you money and you can't repay it, or your dad doesn't make it, what happens to my money? I don't want to break your rules. Jung Hao froze and stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Seisho, you're ruthless. Right back at you. I stood up and looked down at him. Also, you ruined the rug with the wine. Cleaning is 500 yen. Don't forget to transfer it. Then I turned and went to my room. Just as I closed the door, I heard Jung Hao let out a desperate roar. But I knew this was only the beginning. Right now, he was suffering because he had no money. When he learned that his only possible lifeline, me, was sitting on assets worth over 1,000,000 yen and still wouldn't give him a cent, that would be real despair. Outside my room, Jung Hao's phone rang. It was the hospital calling about the unpaid bill. Hello, doctor? Can you give me 2 more days? I'm trying to raise the money. Please, I'm begging you. Listening to him plead, I switched off the light and sank into my soft bed. I had a feeling I'd sleep very well that night. Just as I was drifting off, my phone buzzed. A bank notification had come in. Account ending in 888 credited, Y 500,000 award note, stock investment return. In the dark, a cold smile tugged at my lips. The next morning, I woke to the sound of drawers being yanked open and things being thrown around. Zhenghao was tearing through the apartment like a man possessed. Drawers open, clothes everywhere, even shaking out the vases. What are you looking for? I leaned against the doorframe and watched him without blinking. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair looked like a bird's nest, and he had a wild look about him. The money! Where's your money? He rushed over and grabbed my shoulder so hard, it felt like he was trying to crush the bone. Shiru, I know you have money. Where's that 50,000 yen you saved? And your salary card? Where is it? Give it to me. I ripped his hands off me and slapped him. The crack echoed through the room, leaving him frozen in place. Awake now? I rolled my wrist. That's my money. What does it have to do with you? My dad is dying. The hospital says if I don't pay today, they'll stop treatment. Zhenghao held his cheek, his voice hoarse. Shiru, we're talking about a human life. Are you really going to stand there and watch him die? What else am I supposed to do? I walked to the couch, sat down, and slowly poured myself a glass of water. Zhenghao, we signed a no-support agreement. Whether your dad makes it is his fate. Besides, don't you still own a house? Sell it. The second I mentioned the house, his eyes flickered. No, I can't sell the house. I bought it before we married, and it'll keep going up in value. Besides, where would we live? I almost laughed. Even now, all he cared about was his property and his own interests. Apparently, his father's life wasn't worth as much as that house. Then I guess you're out of options. I shrugged. If you can't bear to sell the house, then your dad can wait. I don't have money for you either. You're lying! Zhenghao suddenly pointed at me. I heard your phone last night. That was a bank alert. You have money. Without the slightest hurry, I unlocked my phone and opened the message screen. Oh, you mean this? I held up the screen. It was a scam text. Zhenghao stared at it, stunned. Congratulations. You've won Y 5,000. Click the link to claim your prize. This is fake? Obviously. What, did you think I was secretly loaded? I let out a short laugh. Zhenghao, stop dreaming. That 50,000 yuan is tied up in an investment account. I can't withdraw it. If you really want to save your dad, figure something out yourself. The last bit of hope left Zhenghao's eyes. He sank to the floor, buried his face in his hands, and let out a broken sob. What am I supposed to do? What do I do? I felt no sympathy. In my past life, when my mom was lying in a hospital bed waiting for money that could save her, I'd been just as desperate. And what was he doing then? Drinking with friends and bragging about how completely he'd gotten his wife under control? There was one option. I spoke without warning. Zhenghao's head snapped up like I'd just thrown him a lifeline. What option? Sir, if you'll help me, I'll do whatever you want from now on. Forget the 50-50 split, you can control my salary card. Anything. I shook my head. Then I pointed toward the door. I don't want your salary card, go borrow it. There are tons of online lenders. The interest is ugly, sure, but they pay out fast. Saving a life comes first, right? Zhenghao went pale. Oh, online loans? Of course he knew what those were. A financial pit that could swallow you whole. No, those are predatory loans. The interest compounds until it buries you. He shook his head violently. I shrugged again. You won't sell the house, you won't borrow money, and you don't want your dad to die. Zhenghao, you don't get to have everything your way. I checked the time. I'm going to work. Take your time thinking about it. I grabbed my bag and walked out without looking back. Behind me, Zhenghao was still slumped on the floor like someone had emptied the soul out of him. But I knew he'd borrow the money. He cared way too much about appearances. If he let his dad go untreated, the relatives would tear him apart. And deep down, he still believed he could somehow turn things around and repay it all. Sure enough, that afternoon, calls started coming in from unknown numbers. Are you Zhenghao's wife? He borrowed 50,000 yuan through our platform and listed you as his emergency contact. I hung up and blocked the number. Then another. Then another. After 7 or 8 calls, I estimated he'd borrowed at least 300,000 to 400,000 yuan. Enough to keep his father in treatment for a while, and enough to drag Zhenghao into a hole he might never escape. After work, I made a detour to an upscale restaurant and ordered an Australian lobster I'd never have dreamed of buying before. I posted it to my feed with the caption, "Life is more than just surviving. There's still beauty out there." I said it so only Zhenghao could see it. Half an hour later, Zhenghao sent a voice message. I could hear the noisy hospital corridor behind him. Xueru, you're seriously eating lobster right now? I'm stuck at the hospital eating instant noodles. Do you have any heart at all? I sent a voice message back. I have money and I'll spend it how I want. You're eating instant noodles because you're broke. How is that my problem? He went silent for a long time and never replied. I could practically picture him wanting to smash his phone. Good. Be angry. Be desperate. The real show starts when you realize that no matter how hard you struggle, you still can't climb out of poverty and pain. When I got home, the place was empty. Perfect. I hummed to myself and started my skincare routine. Then the doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and saw several huge men outside. Gold chains, tattooed arms, the whole intimidating look. The collectors had arrived. That fast? I opened the small security hatch in the door and asked through the locked gate. Who are you looking for? Does Zhenghao live here? The bald man in front asked in a rough voice. He's not here. You're his wife, right? The bald man grinned, showing a row of yellowed teeth. Your husband borrowed money from us. He was supposed to pay interest today, but now we can't find him. Since you're his wife, you can pay for him. I looked at him without expression. Why would I? We signed a strict 50-50 marital finance agreement. His debts are his. If you want your money, find him at the city hospital's nephrology department. The bald man blinked. Apparently, he'd never met such a cooperative spouse before. 50-50? Seriously? You two are married and keep things that separate? Exactly that separate. I picked up a copy of the agreement from the shoe cabinet and slid it through the gap in the door. Read it. It says in black and white that each person is responsible for their own debts. If you harass me, I'll call the police. And I'm guessing people running predatory loans don't exactly love police attention. The bald man skimmed the agreement. Damn, that's brutal. What kind of husband signs something like this? He tossed the copy down and waved to the men behind him. Come on, we're going to the hospital. I watched the whole group march away, shut the hatch, and felt my mood improve immediately. Jung-hao, hope you enjoy the little gift. The next day, hospital security brought Jung-hao back. His face was bruised, his clothes were torn, and there were scratches on his skin. Clearly, the collectors hadn't been gentle. The second he came inside, he collapsed onto the floor like a sack of wet laundry. Yero! Yero! He called my name weakly. I was sitting at the dining table drinking coffee and didn't even look over. Well, if it isn't the world's most devoted son, what happened to you? Jung-hao struggled up against the wall, his eyes burning with resentment. It was you. You told them I was at the hospital. I didn't bother denying it. Of course I did. Debt collectors should collect from the person who owes them. Was I supposed to pay your debt instead? You vicious woman. Jung-hao lunged at me and reached for my neck. I was ready. I sidestepped, stuck out a foot, and he crashed hard onto the floor. Jung-hao, I suggest you calm down. I crouched beside him and looked at the mess he'd become. You're drowning in debt, and your dad is still burning through money at the hospital. Touch me again, and I'll file for divorce immediately. Then that precious house of yours could end up being sold by the court to cover your debts. The moment he heard the word house, Jung-hao went silent. That property was his weak spot. Fueru, I won't touch you. I swear I won't. He started begging through tears. Just don't divorce me. Please don't divorce me. Watching him fold that quickly made my stomach turn. Then the doorbell rang again. This time it wasn't collectors. It was Jung-hao's extended family. His second aunt saw the state he was in and immediately started wiping tears from her eyes. What a disaster. How did it come to this? His third aunt pointed straight at me. Sheru, are you even human? Your husband looks like this and you're still sitting there drinking coffee? Is your heart made of stone? His uncle dropped onto the couch, slapped the table, and started shouting too. Sheru, we're here because of Jung-hao's father. We're family. Everyone should contribute what they can. Jung-hao is struggling and you're his wife. You have to pay. I set down my coffee and looked around at their self-righteous faces. I have to pay? Based on what? His uncle answered like it was obvious. Because you married into the Jung family. You're one of us now. If your father-in-law is sick, you sell whatever it takes and get him treated. Exactly. His second aunt jumped in. We heard you've got plenty of money. Hand it over and stop hiding it. And if I don't? I asked coldly. His third aunt gave a cold laugh. Then we'll go to your workplace, make a scene, and tell your boss you neglect your in-laws and mistreat your husband. Let's see how you show your face after that. Threatening me? I smiled. In my past life, this was exactly how they'd forced me to give in. Back then, I was too worried about losing my job and being judged, so I swallowed everything in silence. Not this time. I picked up my phone and called the police. Hello, police. I need to report trespassing and harassment, possibly extortion as well. Yes, it's at the XX residential complex. The second they heard me calling the police, the whole room erupted. You actually called the police? His uncle stared at me in disbelief. Why wouldn't I? I ended the call and waved my phone. And I recorded everything you just said. Want to make a scene at my workplace? Go ahead. Let everyone see how this family tries to pressure people into the ground. As for the money, I walked to the safe, opened it, and pulled out a stack of documents. This is the 50-50 finance agreement Jung-hao and I signed, and this is the notarized copy. Legally, I can refuse unreasonable financial demands. If you think I'm in the wrong, take me to court. If a judge orders me to pay, I will. But until then, you're not getting a cent out of me. His second aunt pointed at me, her finger trembling. Just you wait, this isn't over. Within 2 minutes, the whole crowd cleared out. Only Jung-hao remained sprawled on the floor, staring hopelessly at the ceiling. Over the next few days, Jung-hao sank deeper into crisis. The online loan interest kept snowballing, while hospital payment notices piled up non-stop. He sold his car, his watch, even his wedding ring. But against the endless cost of treating kidney failure, it barely made a dent. He became jumpy and obsessive, muttering money, money, money all day long. One night, I even heard him sharpening a knife in the kitchen. I didn't panic. I quietly kept pepper spray under my pillow and turned on my phone's emergency SOS feature. He wasn't going to kill me. I was still his last hope. Sure enough, the next morning, Jung-hao came into my room with huge dark circles under his eyes and a bowl of porridge in his hands. Sharu, have some porridge. I made it especially for you. I didn't take it. I just watched him carefully. Say it. What do you want? Jung-hao rubbed his hands together and forced on his sweetest smile. Swearu, the doctor said. They found a kidney match for my dad. Oh, that's good news. I raised an eyebrow. Zheng hesitated, avoiding my eyes. But the transplant surgery costs 400,000 yuan, and the matching donor is you. I froze. What? The doctor checked your medical records. Your blood type and tissue match are compatible with my dad. Zheng dropped to his knees and grabbed my hand tightly. Shueru, please save my dad. If you donate one kidney, I'll figure out the surgery money. Please, you can live with one kidney, but my dad won't survive without a transplant. A chill shot straight up my spine. So this was his real plan. He didn't just want my money, he wanted one of my kidneys too. I looked at the man sobbing in front of me and suddenly laughed. Zheng, you are genuinely the most disgusting person I've ever met. I pulled my hand free, stood up, and looked down at him. You want my kidney? Sure, over my dead body. When begging didn't work, Zheng face changed instantly. His expression twisted as he shouted, It's just one kidney! You won't die! You're part of the Zheng family. Helping your father-in-law is your duty. My duty? I laughed coldly. Show me the law that says a daughter-in-law has to donate a kidney to her father-in-law. Zheng, have you completely lost your mind? Zheng stepped toward me with bloodshot eyes. I don't care about the law. You're agreeing today whether you want to or not. I took a step back. Zheng, did you forget the agreement we signed? No mutual responsibility in life or death situations. Now you're trying to force me to break your own contract. To hell with that agreement. Zheng completely lost it and lunged toward me. Once you're on the operating table and under anesthesia, who'll know whether you agreed? By the time it's done, what are you going to do about it? Just as his hand was about to reach me, psh! I sprayed him straight in the face. He screamed, clutched his eyes, and rolled on the floor in pain. I rushed out, locked the door behind me, and called the police immediately. This time, the police arrived fast. Even as they took Zheng away, he kept shouting at me, Shiro, you heartless woman, I'll never forgive you. I stood in the doorway and watched coldly as they put him in the police car. He was detained on suspicion of attempted assault, along with falsifying medical documents. With Zheng no longer running around raising money, Wang Suihua couldn't handle the complicated hospital payments and treatment arrangements on her own. Treatment was soon stopped, and Zheng Dagen was moved out of the room, left on an extra bed in the hallway as his condition worsened. Not long after, Zheng Dagen died. Wang Kuihua broke down completely and wandered around the hospital entrance, mumbling, Zheng, my Zheng. Meanwhile, I got my divorce judgment. Based on Zheng misconduct and the evidence I'd submitted, the court ordered the house sold, with my original down payment and my share of the appreciation paid back first. Only the remainder would go toward his debts. But Zheng owed so much that even selling the house wasn't enough. He walked away with nothing and still had a mountain of debt. Life after his release was even harder than prison. His record made regular work difficult to find, his unpaid online loans wrecked his credit, and collectors kept tracking him down whenever he resurfaced. He ended up hiding in a cheap basement room on the edge of the city, surviving on odd jobs and whatever he could scrape together. I kept tabs on him too. Whenever he started getting back on his feet or found a halfway decent job, I'd make sure trouble followed close behind. One day, while I was getting a spa treatment, my phone rang from an unknown number. When I answered, Zheng weak voice came through. Fro, can you give me 100 yuan? I haven't eaten in 3 days. I smiled. Zheng, what's your hourly rate these days? If we're still doing everything 50-50, you need to provide equal value before I give you money. I can do anything you want. I'll be your servant if I have to. My servant? I looked at my glowing reflection in the mirror. Sorry, even my dog eats imported food and sleeps in air conditioning. You don't meet the job requirements. Sharu, don't push it. Tables can turn. Zheng suddenly shouted. Aren't you afraid karma will come for you? My face turned cold. Karma? Zheng, this is your karma. And don't call me again. My time is expensive. I charge by the second, and you can't afford it. I hung up and blocked the number immediately. A few days later, I heard Zheng had gotten into trouble again. He was so hungry that he tried to snatch a passerby's bag. Bad choice. The guy knew combat sports, stopped him, and handed him over to the police. Because he already had a record, the sentence was heavier this time. 3 years. When I heard the news, I was in first class on a flight to the Maldives, watching blue sky and clouds roll past the window. I raised my glass of champagne and tapped the rim lightly. To freedom.